One language, many different accents. Today we will compare my accent, British English, modern RP to be precise, with American, Australian, New Zealand, and Canadian English. You will hear how certain words change completely depending on where you are. Is it a petrol station or a gas station? Do they say a boot instead of about in Canadian English? Is it Tuesday or Tuesday? News or news? I've put together a free ebook to go with this video. It includes everything we cover today: words, phrases, pronunciation tips, and examples from each accent. You can download it for free. Just click on the link in the description box or scan the QR code there. Let's begin with our first comparison. I am shortly going to welcome two lovely guests who have generously given their time to help teach you the differences between Australian English, American English, and British English. This is going to be a two-part series. Today we are going to focus on vocabulary, and then in the next part of the video we are focusing on pronunciation. We may all speak the same language, English, but we have very different accents and we speak with different vocabularies. Firstly, I would like to welcome Emma to the channel.
Hey there, I'm Emma from the English YouTube channel, coming at you from Perth in Western Australia.
And we also have Vanessa.
Hi, I'm Vanessa and I live in North Carolina in the US. I run the YouTube channel Speak English with Vanessa.
It's so lovely to have Emma and Vanessa on the channel. I've known Emma for a very, very long time, 4 years now, and I've recently got to know Vanessa. Both of them have fantastic YouTube channels and all of their information is in the description box if you want to follow them. So I have got some pictures and Vanessa, Emma and I are going to tell you how we would say what's in these pictures in our own country. You might be surprised at some of the answers. Okay, so let's start with this one.
In the US, these are chips, 100% just chips.
I can't believe you started with this one. These are chips.
We call these crisps. Crisps.
The other word that you use, Lucy, is the most complicated word in the English language to say. So let's just call them chips and move along.
Yeah, I'll give you that one. Crisps is a notoriously difficult word for learners of English. It's the sps sound at the end, crisps. You'll find a lot of people mispronouncing them as crips, when they should be crisps. So here is the next one, and it gets even more complicated because in the UK, we call these chips. So in the US, the cold version is chips, and in the UK, the hot version is chips. Let's see what Vanessa has to say about this. What does she call them?
These are French fries. I know that they're not really French, but we still call them French fries, or you can just say fries by themselves.
The next one's chips as well, right? They're hot chips.
Hot chips! Oh my God. Hot chips. Australians just call everything chips then. It is worth noting that if you go to England and you order fries or French fries, we know exactly what you mean. Okay, next we have this one.
We call these cookies or chocolate chip cookies specifically.
Okay, they are biscuits. Don't really hear people saying cookie.
Yes, 2 against 1. These for us are biscuits as well. And we would use cookie to refer to an American style, normally chocolate chip cookie. However, if you use the word biscuit in the United States, you might get something that you are not expecting. Vanessa has more on this.
If you asked someone, do you have any biscuits, or I want a biscuit, they would not give you this. Instead, they'd give you a savory, kind of fluffy type piece of bread. A biscuit is savory and a cookie is sweet.
So there we have it. If you fancy something sweet with your coffee in America, don't ask for a biscuit. You will be bitterly disappointed. Okay, Vanessa got very passionate about this next one. Very passionate. Here is the picture. Vanessa seems to think that she knows the absolute correct answer. And she's even done research. I did not expect Emma and Vanessa to get books out for this video.
I have the proof that my answer is the most correct because you can see my 2-year-old son is obsessed with trucks. We have so many truck books. Let me read to you. What truck do you need? A tractor trailer. So this is also what I would call it, a tractor trailer. I might call it a semi.
All right, that yellow thing is a truck.
So Vanessa thinks it's a tractor trailer and she's very, very sure about it.
In all of these books, they call it a tractor trailer. So we're going to go with that one.
That really tickled me. Emma thinks it's a truck. In the UK, we would call this a lorry. A lorry.
It's a truck.
Whatever, Emma, it's a lorry. Okay, what about this next one? What have the women got up here?
These girls all have bangs.
We would definitely say fringe. Bangs is probably becoming more popular, especially colloquially.
So in the UK, we definitely call this a fringe. And when I started hearing the word bangs in movies and things like that, I was really genuinely confused. Okay, what about this next one?
This is candy.
They are lollies. Lollies.
Lollies! That is so cute. So in British English, these are sweets. Or sometimes if you're talking to a child, they might call them sweeties. Lollies for us are sweets on a stick. Right, what about this next one?
This is a swimsuit. Some people might call it a bathing suit. You can also call this a one-piece.
Okay, this one's really funny. In Melbourne, where I'm from, it's really common to call them togs. But no one else in Australia really calls them togs. They call it swimmers. In Sydney, they call them cozies or costumes. But generally, it's swimmers or bathers. Oh gosh, there's another one. Bathers or swimmers.
Oh my word, I did not expect to receive so many different ways of saying swimming costume. This for us is a swimming costume. We can also say one piece. And we can also shorten it down to cosy. I remember my mum saying, get your cosy on before my swimming lessons when I was a child, but that's quite a childish thing. Okay, what about this next one?
This is the forest.
That is definitely a forest.
No, it's the woods. Woods, plural. This is definitely the woods. I mean, in general, we say the woods. Forest implies a huge area of trees, of woodland.
The wood sounds kind of like something you might hear in an old-fashioned fairy tale.
Yeah, well, Vanessa, sometimes life in England is like an old-fashioned fairy tale. I think a lot of Americans have this vision of England as a place with so much culture and history, like a fairy tale, and then they come over and they are just so disappointed. Okay, what about this next one?
This is a bathroom. You might say it's a restroom, but it would be really unusual to call a place that actually has a bathtub a restroom. Usually we use the term restroom for public places.
That room is a bathroom? Yeah, it's a bathroom.
Okay, so Vanessa touched on restroom and bathroom. Now, we would never use the word restroom in British English. If we are in a public place and we are looking for a bathroom, we would say toilet. However, if there is a bath there, like a bathtub, then yes, we might say bathroom as well. But we would ask, where's the toilet?
If you say, where's the toilet? Most people in the US would just say, it's in the bathroom.
I mean, she's not wrong. The toilet is in the bathroom. There is also a slang word which I use a lot, which is the loo, Where's the loo? I went to the States for a business trip and I asked people where the loo was and they were utterly confused. The loo? What's the loo? All right, let's move on to the next.
This is an apartment.
This is mostly called an apartment.
But we would never say flat.
Okay, so in British English, this is a flat. We have a block of flats. I've lived in many flats in my life. We don't use the word apartment. Okay, the next one. Maybe the picture wasn't clear enough for this one because Emma did get a bit confused, but she gave us all of the options. Good old Emma.
This is a grocery store.
I'm not exactly sure what I'm looking at in that image, but it could be a trolley, it could be an aisle, or it could be a supermarket.
Hey, bingo, it's a supermarket for us as well. Or we call it the shops. I'm going to the supermarket, I'm going to the shops. The shops is more general, it could mean any type of shop. We would never say grocery store. We might, however, say grocers. The grocers. This is a shop that just sells fruits and vegetables. All right, next one.
This is a comforter.
Oh my God, how weird is the word comforter? That's weird. In Australia, that's called a doona.
I love that Emma is saying that the word comforter is weird. And then she goes to say that in Australia it's a doona. That's weirder, Emma. So in British English, this is a duvet, which apparently Vanessa finds weird. See, we all find each other weird.
I didn't know what a duvet was. Maybe I'm very sheltered, but I didn't know what a duvet was until I visited Europe. We just do not have those in the US.
Okay, I feel there's going to be a lot of conflict about this next one.
These are bell peppers.
Okay, they're capsicums, red, green, yellow capsicums.
No, they're just plain old peppers. Red peppers, green peppers, and yellow peppers. Capsicum, what? This isn't Latin, this is English. Okay, another one that's going to cause a bit of conflict.
These are rain boots, and also the jacket that goes with it is a raincoat or a rain jacket. I guess in the US we like really clear, straightforward names for items like this. Rain boots. What's it for? It's for the rain. It's very clear. Boots for the rain.
I mean, she's not wrong, is she? American English is sometimes more simplified than British English, and this is no bad thing, really. Let's see what Emma has to say.
When it's muddy and rainy, I would put my gumboots on to walk around in the wet.
Yeah, I mean, we never say gumboots. I think I've heard my grandma say it, so it might be quite an old-fashioned thing. In British English, we say wellies or welly boots. Are you ready for this next one? Are you ready? Because what Australians call these is frankly shocking. Let's hear from Vanessa first.
These are flip-flops.
Yeah, these are flip-flops, Emma. What do you call them?
When we go to the beach in Australia, we wear our thongs. Our thongs. It's plural, and we're talking about the shoes on our feet. They're our thongs.
So I have to explain to you what a thong is in British English and American English. A thong is like a G-string. It's a type of underwear where there is just one string at the back instead of more fabric. If Emma said to me, "Can I borrow some thongs?" I would probably lend her some, but I'd be a bit concerned. Okay, next one. Where would you go to fill up your car?
This is a gas station where you put gas into your car.
So when I fill up my car, I fill it up at the petrol station.
Good. I'm with Emma again on this one. She's redeeming herself after the thong situation. Yes, we also call this a petrol station. The fuel that we put into our car is petrol. I spent much of my childhood confused, but I was especially confused by the fact that Americans put gas into their car, because I thought, well, petrol's a liquid. Turns out it's just short for gasoline. Now the next one's quite interesting. I want to know, what they call a shop that only sells alcohol. And this is interesting because in America, their attitude towards alcohol is slightly different. We're very open, maybe too open to alcohol in the UK and Australia, but alcohol is more controlled by the government and the states in the United States.
This is an ABC store, which I just learned because I just looked it up. It stands for Alcohol Beverage Controlled State. So this is a store that sells only alcohol. And that last word, state, is because it is run by the state or run by the government.
Now let's see what Emma calls it, because I have heard that Australians have some fun names for places like these.
When I go and get a bottle of wine, I go to the bottle shop, which in Australia we also call the bottle-o.
Bottle-o, love it. It would sound so stupid in a British accent. I'm just going to the bottle-o, do you need anything? Bottle-o. Yeah, it only works really when you pronounce your T's as D. Bottle-o. In British English, we call this an off license. An off license. Okay, what about this next one? I feel like I'm going to get ganged up on here.
These are pants.
Pants. Pants. Old people might call them trousers.
Well, excuse me, I must be very old then, because these are hands down trousers. They are trousers. We do use the word pants to refer to underpants. Oh, because they go under your pants. Yeah, maybe they are right. My whole life has been a lie. Underpants, because they go under your pants. Ooh, under trousers. Doesn't work, does it? Well, anyway, these are trousers. And I'm not old, Emma. Yet. Now, what do we call this? The little walking space beside a road.
This is a sidewalk.
The concrete beside the road where people walk in Australia is called a footpath.
Interesting. We don't say either of these. We say pavement. Pavement. Now, we would never say sidewalk. We do say footpath, but a footpath is normally not beside a road. A pavement is just beside a road and a footpath is anywhere else. Okay, another car-related one. What do we call this?
This is a highway, or you could call it an interstate.
A highway or maybe a freeway in Australia.
Ooh, we don't say either of these either. We never say highway in British English. Interstate, well, we don't have states, so that doesn't work either. Freeway, no. Freeway sounds dangerous. It sounds like you can do whatever you want. You're just free to drive however you like. Thank you so much to Emma and Vanessa for coming on this channel and helping me to make this video. As I said before, I've left all of their information in the description box. Make sure you watch the other video in this two-part series on pronunciation. So we're going to be focusing on the same words that are pronounced differently in each accent. Hello everyone and welcome back to English with Lucy. I have the most incredible treat for you today. I am shortly going to welcome two lovely guests who have generously given their time to help teach you the differences between Australian English, American English and British English. We're going to look at how we pronounce words differently. First up, we have Emma.
Hey there, I'm Emma from the English YouTube channel, coming at you from Perth in Western Australia.
And we also have Vanessa.
Hi, I'm Vanessa and I live in North Carolina in the US. I run the YouTube channel Speak English with Vanessa.
And I'm speaking with modern received pronunciation, so not everyone from Britain speaks like me, it depends where you're from. These are two fantastic teachers and I have left all of their information in the description box, so you should definitely go and check them out. We are going to look at 6 sounds, and for each of these 6 sounds, I have included 5 example words. So you'll hear us say the words and then we'll look at how we pronounce them differently. Okay, we've got the first 5 words.
Tuesday,
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 YouTube,
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 tuna,
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 news,
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 duty,
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 duty.
duty. So you can hear that Vanessa does something called yod dropping. In British English and Australian English, these words have a y sound. Tuesday, tuna, duty, news. In American English, they often drop this y sound. It's called yod dropping. Tuesday, duty.
Tuesday, duty,
You can also hear when we join a t and a y sound, sometimes we blend these together to make a ch sound. And Emma does this when she says Tuesday, tuna.
Tuesday, tuna.
This is also common in British English. It's something that I do, especially when I'm speaking quickly. Can you give me some tuna? It's Tuesday today. Many people say this is wrong or lazy. It's not, it's efficient. Let's have a look another time at Vanessa saying what I call duty. Duty.
duty,
She says duty. So not only does she drop that y sound to make do instead of due, she also replaces the t sound with a d sound. And that's something we're going to look at a bit more later on. Emma also replaces the t with a d sound, but she doesn't drop the y sound. I say duty, she says duty.
Judy,
And that's funny because we do say Judy in English, but it only refers to the woman's name Judy. Let's have a look at the next set of words. All of these in British English pronunciation have an O sound.
modern,
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 bottle,
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 sorry,
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 shopping,
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 borrow,
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 borrow.
borrow. Now you can hear that where we say the O sound, as in modern, Vanessa in American English says the R sound, modern.
modern,
She also pronounces the R, the sound at the end of the word, and we don't tend to do this in British English. Now, the Australian pronunciation is very similar here to the British English pronunciation. Emma's O sound is maybe slightly more relaxed, but the difference is absolutely tiny. I say bottle, which can sound quite posh. If I were to speak really quickly, I might say bottle of water. But if I'm speaking slowly and clearly, a bottle of water. Australian English, American English, they replace that T with a D. Bottle, bottle.
Bottle,
bottle,
So Australian English and British English here are extremely similar. American English is quite different. So now we're going to look at the T sound, or not in some cases, because in American English and Australian English, sometimes they don't pronounce the letter T as a T. Now it's interesting because both Vanessa and Emma do seem to alternate slightly. Sometimes they use the T sound and sometimes they use the D sound.
Okay, for me personally, these T ones are kind of weird. I use both. Sometimes it's a flat T, sometimes it's a fully pronounced T, The flat T is pretty common in Australia though.
Daughter,
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 daughter.
daughter,
daughter,
Meeting,
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 meeting.
meeting,
meeting,
Little,
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 little.
little,
little,
Percentage,
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 percentage.
percentage,
percentage,
Interview,
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 interview.
interview,
interview. So you can see here with the word little, or little how I say it,
Little,
little,
they both use a d sound in the middle, but in other words, they use the t sound, like percentage.
percentage.
percentage,
Vanessa really does pronounce that sound at the beginning. She says percentage, percentage. So in these ones, we are looking at the R sound. For me, it's quite different in American English, and there's a slight difference in Australian English. I wonder if you'll be able to pick up on it, because it is very, very slight.
Car,
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 car.
car,
car,
Hard,
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 hard.
hard,
hard,
Parking,
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 parking.
parking,
parking,
Shark,
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 shark.
shark,
shark,
Barnyard,
barnyard. Would never say that. Shed,
barnyard,
barnyard.
barnyard,
barnyard. So let's start with American English. They pronounce the sound, car.
Car,
In British English and Australian English, we don't use this sound in the R words, but British English is more of an R sound. R, R. Australian English is ever so slightly more open than the British vowel sound here. It's more ah, car.
car,
Can you hear the difference? It's almost like the vowel sound is shorter and slightly more open. Shark.
shark,
Now let's look at words with the O sound in British English.
go,
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 go.
go,
go,
No,
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 no.
no,
no,
Overflow,
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 overflow.
overflow,
overflow,
GoPro,
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 GoPro.
GoPro,
GoPro,
Showing,
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 showing.
showing,
showing. Can you hear the ever so slight difference between the British English no and the American English?
No,
In British English, we start with the schwa sound, and then it's a diphthong, so we blend that into the sound. O, O. In American English pronunciation, they start with the O sound, which starts further back in the mouth, and then they blend it into the sound. O, O. So it's a wider vowel sound coming from further back in your mouth. O, 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 O. Now, Australian English pronunciation can be very different. Emma's accent is quite light, but there are a couple of times where she goes O, where I go O, 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 O. It's almost like she includes a y sound. One example is where she says both.
I use both. I use both.
And another one is when she says overflow. It's just leaning towards overflow.
Overflow.
But then at other times, she almost completely matches my pronunciation as well. Okay, let's look at how we pronounce ER words, words that end in ER.
Better,
Better.
Better,
better,
Better.
better,
water,
Water.
water,
water,
Water.
water,
Harry Potter,
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter,
Harry Potter,
Harry Potter.
Harry Potter,
later,
Later.
later,
later,
Later.
later,
cellar,
Cellar.
cellar,
cellar,
Cellar.
cellar. So with the pronunciation of ER at the end of words, and this works for many AR words as well, in American English they pronounce the R at the end, and in Australian English and British English we don't. Better.
Better.
better,
Also pay attention to the way they pronounce the T's. In American English, in the middle of words, this is nearly always a D sound.
better,
In Australian English, it completely depends, it appears. Sometimes Emma uses the D sound, sometimes she uses the T sound.
Water. Later.
It might be depending on her mood. For me, and I'm speaking with modern received pronunciation, so not everyone from Britain speaks like me, it depends where you're from. Sometimes if I'm speaking quickly and in an informal situation, I might use that D sound. For example, instead of saying, but I want to go, I might say, but I want to go, but I want to go. I might use a glottal stop instead of the T sound, but I want to go. So there you have it, some of the most profound differences between American English pronunciation, Australian English pronunciation, and British English pronunciation. Thank you so much to Emma and Vanessa for generously giving up their time to help me make this video for you guys. I have left all of their information in the description box. Go and check out their channels. They are really fantastic teachers. We are going to be comparing New Zealand, Australian, and British English slang. And I've got two fantastic collaborators on board with me today. Representing Australian English, we have got Pete.
G'day you mob, I'm Pete, the host of Aussie English, a YouTube channel and podcast aimed at teaching people Australian English, culture and history. I am from the southeast of Australia.
And we also have Rosie from Not Even French.
Kia ora, English with Lucy fans. My name is Rosie from the YouTube channel Not Even French, where we jam on all things French culture and language and Kiwi culture or New Zealand culture and language as well.
It's such a pleasure to have them both on the channel. I have left all of their details in the description box down below. I know for a lot of you, New Zealand English and Australian English sounds extremely similar, but there are some differences, so we'll be listening out for that. Okay, let's begin with the comparison. I am going to show some images to Pete and Rosie, and they are going to tell us what they would call the images in their own dialect. Please let me know in the comments section if you say something completely different. Let me know where you're from as well. It'd be really nice to share vocabulary. Let's get started with number one. I forgot to tell you where I'm all from. I am Lucy. I'm from the UK, specifically Cambridgeshire.
All right, so the first image here is clearly an esky. This is something in Australia that I think we call it an esky from the word Eskimo.
Okay, so this item for me is a chili bin. Chili bin.
Okay, this for me is a cool box, but I much prefer their words. It's amazing how these countries can be so close together, relatively. They also sound, to somebody who isn't from that part of the world, quite similar to one another. So it's really cool to see that they have such different slang words for things. Okay, number two. What would you call this?
All right, so this is clearly chewing gum, but the Australian slang term for chewing gum would be chewy. And I know you guys are going to think about the character from Star Wars. Yes, that joke gets made a little bit. But we also use the slang term chewy for chewing gum. Chewy.
So this is of course chewing gum, but in New Zealand slang we would say chuddy. Hey, can I have a piece of your chuddy?
Interesting. This for us is just gum. Can I have some gum? I like chuddy though. All right, number 3.
This is a milk bar. A milk bar. I guess you could probably say corner shop if it were on a corner.
In New Zealand English, this is a dairy. A dairy.
That is so interesting that both of them are related to dairy product. A milk bar to me sounds very similar to a Milky Bar, which is a brand of white chocolate. This for us is a corner shop. A corner shop. They're not always on a corner, only sometimes. On to number 4.
All right, so what do you call someone who is stupid? In Australian English, we use all the standard ones, but we would call someone a drongo. A drongo. And another good one is a ningbat. A ningbat. But yeah, drongo's a ripper. Use that one, drongo.
We would call someone like this an egg. Oh my gosh, what an egg.
I love it. And I love the pronunciation of what I would say, egg, egg. We'll talk about that in the next video. So much to take in here. Ningbat, what a word. Drongo, I love the ng sound in both of these. Yeah, if someone called me an egg, I would be pretty sure it wasn't a compliment. In British English, there's one word that we love to use, and that is twit. So many people are going to be watching this and thinking, no, we don't say that. It's quite an old-fashioned word, you twit. It's also similar to a swear word, so it's quite a nice way to catch someone off guard. I also really like thicko. If someone's thick, it means they're stupid. So if you say, oh, you're such a thicko, that's quite good. In British English, we like to use idioms to describe stupid people, like he's one sandwich short of a picnic, or he's not the sharpest tool in the shed, for example. I, in fact, have a whole video on British polite, not really, ways to call somebody a total idiot. I will link that down below as well. Okay, on to the next.
When you really agree with someone, you say bloody oath. Bloody oath. That's a great Australian slang term that you can use for agreeing with someone. Bloody oath.
In New Zealand, we would say hard out. Yes, hard out. That's so true.
Okay, for me, it would be absolutely, absolutely, abso-bloody-exactly. I just can't even fathom how ridiculous I would sound saying hard out. Bloody oath. Actually, that sounds quite good, but hard out just doesn't work with my accent, does it? On to the next before I embarrass myself even more.
All right, I'm sick of always doing this one. These are thongs. We call them thongs. I don't know why we call them thongs, but these are thongs.
These are so obviously jandals. Japanese sandals. Jandals.
Okay, I put this one in on purpose because I know that in Australia they call flip-flops, for me, thongs. And in the UK, a thong refers to a very minimal item of underwear for women. Knickers with just a bit of string at the back, a G-string, for example. So I always find it so hilarious to hear people talking about their thongs so openly. Jandals, I haven't heard that before. Quite clever, actually. Jandals, Japanese sandals. Makes sense. For us, flip-flops. On to the next.
There's about 5 different ways of saying this in Australian English slang. Okay, so I would say bathers from the southeast of Australia. You could also say cozies, togs, swimmers. I'm probably missing some more.
Togs. You've got to get your togs out for summer.
Interesting that they both say togs. We also use cozy in the UK, short for swimming costume. I think togs might have come from a brand name. I wonder which came first, the brand togs or the word togs for swimming costumes. I wonder, but yes, for us, swimming costume, cozy. It's now popular to call it a one-piece as well, a one-piece, but we say one piece. And that means as opposed to a two-piece, which is a bikini. Okay, next one.
All right, how do you tell someone not to worry? So obviously you can say no worries. That's a typical one that I think we probably all use. Americans don't tend to use that. You could also say in Australian English, no dramas. No dramas, mate. Oh, no dramas. No dramas. Don't worry about it. But the funny one is no wuckers.
Oh, no worries, cuz.
I like the cuz. Some people in the UK do use the word cuz, short for cousin. I'm with Pete on no worries. We also sometimes say no problem as well, which seems to be slightly more US English. One that I really like is no biggie, no biggie. It's not a big deal. No biggie, don't worry. Next.
Festy, that is something that I used to say when I was a young nipper back at primary school. When I was a young kid, I would say something is festy, but adults don't tend to use that. They'll say gross.
Rank. You could say something was rank or sick or gross. Like, oh, that's rank. Or, oh, sick. Oh, yuck, that's gross.
Interesting. Interesting, because sick in the UK has now turned into a slang positive term. If something's really cool, you're like, that's sick. That's amazing. I remember that slang term coming in because at first I misinterpreted it and thought they meant gross as well. We also use rank in the UK. I've never heard festy before, but it's very expressive. One that I love is horrendous. That's absolutely horrendous. I just think it just says exactly what you want it to say. On to the next.
We call them the salvos, typically. And it's based on the Salvation Army, a Christian group in Australia that is renowned for having these stores that you can buy secondhand things at. The salvos. So I'm going to go to the salvos and get some new jeans. Well, secondhand jeans.
We would say op shop.
Ooh, op shop. That sounds great. We're going to be a bit boring here. I can't really think of any slang terms that we have for charity shops in the UK, in British English. I wonder if any of my fellow Brits can help me out. Do we say anything else? No, the charity shop. It would be cool if we shortened it down, something like the chazza shazza, but we don't. Keeping it formal. Okay, next one.
Yeah, so I guess if you're taking the excessively long route somewhere, I would say to take the scenic route. Taking the scenic route. Yeah, I don't know if that's slang or not, but that's what we would say. We're taking the scenic route.
To take a tiki tour. A tiki tour.
I love that. A tiki tour. Amazing. No, we're with Australia on this one. We say to take the scenic route as well. On to the next.
Okay. This one is clearly bushwalking. The bush in Australian slang or Australian English is anywhere that is effectively forested, where there's vegetation and you're away from civilization. You know, there's no suburbia, there's no city, you're in the bush. If you're walking in the bush, you're bushwalking, right? Makes sense. You could also be hiking. But yes, bushwalking is typically what we would use when you go for walks whilst camping or out in the bush.
Tramping. You definitely go on a tramp through the bush.
Interesting. Very interesting. We definitely don't say bush. A bush refers to a small, low tree. If we're talking about something that isn't suburbia, we might say in the wilderness, but we're more likely to say countryside, in the country. If there are lots of trees, we're in a forest or the woods. We do use the word hiking. We also just use the word walking or rambling as well. Rambling. Tramping sounds interesting because tramp is a derogatory term for a homeless person or somebody who lives on the street. So if I heard that somebody was tramping, I might think maybe they're living on the street. So it's interesting that they use that word. But it does make sense because you can tramp along and walk slowly. Yeah, it makes sense. Next one.
So if someone is getting very upset, is crying, you could say that they're having a teary.
To pack a sad. Oh, go on then, pack a sad.
To pack a sad. I love it. And to have a teary. In British English, it's to throw a tantrum or to throw a fit as well. Next one.
Yeah, so if you're kissing someone, you're pashing them. And we would say, I remember being a teenager when you would, be making out with someone, and if you were doing it so much that you ended up with, a bit of a rash, what do we call that? Pash rash.
To pash. Oh, did you see they were pashing in the movies?
Oh my word, I have never heard that word before, to pash. If someone said fancy a pash, I'd think it's like a pastry or something and probably agree to it, which is worrying. For us, it's a snog, or it is to get with. To get with someone is to kiss, or to make out as well, which I think comes from US English. I'm glad that I now have to pash in my vocabulary to prevent future embarrassing situations. Next one.
How do you say to organise something? So if I'm going to organise something like a party, an event, maybe we're going to go out, we're going to go camping, I tee something up. I tee something up. I organise it.
For this, we would say to tee something up. To tee something up.
Oh, cool that they both say that. We would never say that. Oh, so they both say the same thing. I can't say I've heard that used too much in the UK. We would say to get something organised. I'll get something organised. I'll get something sorted as well. On to the next.
In Australian English, we have another heap of slang terms for the toilet. Typically, if I was out and about and I wanted to ask someone where their toilet was, I would probably avoid saying the word toilet and instead say loo. But if I was really wanting to be informal, I would say the word dunny. I don't know where that comes from, but we say dunny quite a lot.
So these aren't the prettiest words for obvious reasons. We could say either the dunny, the ass, or in Te Reo Māori, we would say wharepaku. And wharepaku also means ass.
Thank you, Rosie. I will get some bleeps on that. Interesting. Yes, we can say the house as well. I've never heard of dunny before, and also wharepaku. We don't have that language in the UK, so that's really interesting to hear. I think that's the Maori language. We have various slang terms. The loo is good, it's not rude at all. We also have the bog, which is a kind of dirty word. You wouldn't go to someone's house and say, "Can I use your bog?" because it would imply that their toilet is dirty. Another one we have is the lav, which is short for the lavatory, which is a very formal and old-fashioned word for the toilet. One more is the WC, which is short for water closet. No one says water closet anymore, but WC is quite common. All right, last one. Let's see what they have to say.
Cactus. Oh man, I am cactus. I am wrecked. I'm so tired.
I'm stuffed.
Interesting. So I'm stuffed for me would mean I'm so full of food, I've eaten too much. Cactus means nothing to me. If someone says I'm cactus, I might think they haven't shaved or waxed in a while, so they have spiky arms, legs, anywhere that you might want to wax. Yeah, I would be confused. For us, we say I'm knackered. I'm shattered as well. I'm knackered or I'm shattered. Knackered is quite impolite. Shattered is a little bit less impolite. Right, that is it for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. 17 slang terms from New Zealand, Australia, and the UK. I've got a great video planned for you today. We are going to be comparing British English with American English and Canadian English. And I have two fabulous guests on my channel, and I think you might recognize them.
Hey, my name is Rachel. I'm from the US, and I have a channel here on YouTube where I focus on all things spoken English with an American accent. My accent is what I would call a standard American accent. I grew up in Florida. I went to school in the Midwest. And since then, I've lived in Boston, New York, and Philadelphia.
So we have Rachel representing the US, and representing Canada, we have Bob the Canadian.
Well, hello Lucy, and hello Rachel, and hello to all of Lucy's viewers. I'm Bob the Canadian from the YouTube channel Learn English with Bob the Canadian, where you'll often find me out somewhere on my farm teaching a short English lesson.
If you haven't met me before, my name's Lucy. I run this channel, English with Lucy, and I am from Cambridgeshire in the United Kingdom, and I speak with a modern RP accent. I'd just like to remind you that there's a free PDF that goes with this lesson. It's got everything that we're going to talk about today, plus a quiz at the end. If you'd like to download the free PDF All you've got to do is click on the link in the description box, enter your name and your email address. You then sign up to my mailing list and the PDF will arrive automatically in your inbox. From then on, you don't have to subscribe again. Every week you'll receive all of my lesson PDFs plus all of my news and offers. By the way, this is a two-part video. Today we are looking at vocabulary, and in the future there will be a part 2 with pronunciation, where we will definitively find out if Canadians say a boot or not. Okay, so I have sent Bob and Rachel a list of pictures, and they are going to tell us how they say it where they're from, because there are going to be some differences. Let's get started with this first one.
This first one is definitely the letter Z, although as a child we watched the American version of Sesame Street, and they tried to get me to learn it as the letter Z, but this in Canada is definitely the letter Z, X, Y, Z.
I would definitely call this letter Z.
Interesting. For me, in the UK, in British English, it is the letter Z as well. I really relate to Bob on that one because we used to watch loads of TV shows and cartoons that were produced in the US, and they always used to say Z as well, and I remember finding it quite confusing. But yeah, X, Y, Z over here. Okay, let's take a look at this next one. What would they call this?
So this is definitely a bill in Canadian English. When you're at a restaurant and when you're done eating, you ask your server if you can have the bill.
The check is the most common, but I would also call this the bill.
In the UK, this is always the bill. Can I have the bill? And funny story, I worked as a waitress when I was a teenager, and someone once said to me, "Can I have the bill?" But I misread their lips and I thought they said, "Can I have some milk?" And I brought them a glass of milk and they were just so confused. Okay, on to the third. What would you call this? And remember that you can write in the comment section below what you would call these as well if you say something different.
So we call these either running shoes or runners in Canadian English. If you're going to go out for a walk or a run, you put on your running shoes or you put on your runners.
There are lots of different terms I might use for this. Tennis shoes or running shoes, even though they might not specifically be for tennis or running. Also, sneakers.
Interesting. We don't use any of those words in the UK. We understand them. Sneakers, running shoes, tennis shoes. But I would say that running shoes would be specifically for running. In general, we call these shoes trainers. Trainers. Okay, on to the next.
A long time ago in Canadian English, we called this a Chesterfield, but now we just call it a couch. Sometimes we might say sofa, but usually when we see something like this, we say, "I'm going to go sit on the couch."
I would call this either a couch or a sofa.
Funny. Okay, so we would hardly ever call this a couch. That sounds very American and Canadian to me. We would almost always call this a sofa or sometimes a settee. A Chesterfield to me seems like an old-fashioned leather sofa. It's a specific design. We do have a lot of Americanisms in British English, and we would say a couch potato, not a sofa potato. That doesn't work. If someone's lazy, they're a couch potato, so we have adopted that. Okay, on to the next one.
The $1 coin in Canada has a loonie on it. That's a bird that lives in northern Canada. So we decided we would just call this the loonie. Then when we decided to have a $2 coin, we thought we would call it a toonie because it's worth $2 and it rhymes with loony.
Slang for $1, a buck.
I love the loony and then the toonie. I think that's absolutely hilarious. Yeah, I've heard of buck before. So we don't have dollars in the UK, we have pounds. And our slang term for £1 is a quid. And we haven't thought of a cool name for two. We call it 2 quid. 1 quid, 2 quid. Another thing to note is when we have £5 or 5 quid, we'll call it a fiver. And for 10, a tenner.
In Canada, we would call this pop. I think it's the second half of the word soda pop. I think my American cousins use the first part of the word. I think they call it soda, but we just call it pop.
Actually, in the US, we use either soda or pop, depending on the region. I personally use soda.
Interesting. Okay, So there are definitely some clear similarities between those two, unsurprisingly. In the UK, it's very different. You will find some people, I think more up north, saying pop. But in general, we call it fizzy drinks, which doesn't sound as cool. Now, the word soda to us is quite confusing because a soda for us is fizzy water. So I remember going over to the US and I was offered a soda and I thought, oh, how boring. No, I'll have something more interesting like a Coke, please. Okay, on to the next one.
In Canada, we use the metric system, so we measure distance in kilometers, but that seems like a really big word, so sometimes we just say clicks. If you ask someone, how do I get to Niagara Falls? They might say, oh, it's about 40 clicks from here. Sometimes it's spelled with a C, sometimes with a K.
I would call that 1 kilometer, but of course in the US we're much more familiar with miles.
So we're quite boring here. We would just call it a kilometre. But sometimes when we're running or doing sport, we will just shorten that down to K. So I love running and I like to run 5K and 10K, 5 kilometres, 10 kilometres. I've never heard of click before. That's quite cool. For driving, we do still tend to use miles. Our speed is in miles per hour. How weird is that? I go running in kilometres, but I drive in miles. We need to sort that out. All right, let's talk about this one. This is what I actually celebrated this weekend that's just gone past.
In Canadian English, we would call this either a stag and doe or a Jack and Jill. It's a party that a couple has about a month or two before their actual wedding, where they just invite friends and family over just to have a good time to celebrate the fact that they're getting married.
That would be a bachelor party for a man, a bachelorette party for a woman.
Ah, it's completely different. In the UK, we say hen do. A do is a party, or a stag do. Now it's more common for them to be more than one night. People like to go away for weekends. But if it's just one night, you can say hen night or stag night as well. Also, it's not so common to celebrate them together, as Bob explained, but it is becoming more common. And we put stag and hen together and we call it a sten. Hag didn't sound so good. Okay, this next one is an interesting one and I kind of just put it in for Bob. Let's see what he says.
Canadians often add the word a to the end of a sentence to turn it into a question. So I can't really explain how it works, but I'll give you a few examples. I could say, it's a nice day out here, eh? Or I could say, it's getting hot out here, eh? Or if it was getting a bit windy, I could say, it's getting windy out here, eh? All of those would be examples of how Canadians use the word a.
A common question tag in the US would be, right?
Yes, I just wanted to hear Bob say A. I know it's a common stereotype that, well, there's two that I've heard of Canada, that they say a boot. In British English, we do use A sometimes. A? Or isn't it or doesn't it? We do say a lot. Oh, it's hot, isn't it? Sometimes we can shorten this down to in it. It's hot, innit? Oh my God, in it. Doesn't it can go to done it. It hurts, done it? I've heard them say right a lot in American English. That's definitely creeping into British English because we just consume so much American media.
So Canada is a pretty big country, and in different parts, I think they have different words for this. We call them smokes. In some parts of Canada, they might call them darts, but most people, I think, just call them cigarettes.
I don't smoke, so I'm not super familiar here, but I would say cigarettes, or for shorter or for slang, ciggies or smokes.
So smokes sounds very, very like American gangster film to me. In British English, cigarettes or ciggies. We also use the word fag, which if you use it to describe a person, it's a really offensive word, but it's a common slang term for cigarettes. Okay, on to the next. What do you call this?
So these are what we call freezies. You buy them in the store and they're not frozen. When you come home, you put them in the freezer, and in a couple days they're frozen, and then on a hot day, kids can take them out, snip the end off with a pair of scissors, and eat it to cool off.
I'd call this a popsicle.
Okay, so yeah, we'd definitely call in British English this a popsicle, but we would also call it a lolly. Any kind of frozen treat that isn't creamy, we'd call a lolly. If it's creamy, it's an ice cream.
So in Canada, we would call this homo milk or whole milk. Homo is short for homogenized. I think they mix the milk and the cream together so it won't separate anymore. So this in Canada would be either homo milk or whole milk.
That would be whole milk.
Ah, okay. So if someone asked me for homo milk, I would not know what they're talking about. I would understand whole milk, but in the UK we tend to call it full fat milk or full cream milk. Anything with the fat removed is skimmed or semi-skimmed, which is half and half. Also, I forgot to ask Bob if it's true that his milk comes in bags. I've heard that in Canada, milk comes in bags. Okay, next one. What are they going to call this?
So we would call this either a parking garage or a parkade. When you go to see a show in a city like Toronto, you park your car in a parking garage or in a parkade.
I would call this a parking garage.
For me, this is a multi-story car park. We do have a habit of overcomplicating things. Yeah. One thing I've noticed is that in the US, they call it a parking lot. We always call this a car park. And if it has multiple levels, it's a multi-story car park. I would definitely understand parking garage, or garage as we would call it. But if someone said parkade, I would think that might be like a mix between a park and an arcade, which sounds so fun. And I would be so bitterly disappointed when I get there and it's a multi-story car park. All right, on to the next one. What do you call this?
So we would call this a washroom in Canada. I still remember one of my first visits to the US when I asked someone if I could use their washroom and they looked at me funny because I think they call it a bathroom there. But in Canada, this is definitely a washroom.
I would call this a bathroom, or we would also say restroom.
Interesting. In British English, we'd understand washroom and restroom and bathroom, of course, but we tend to call it the loo or just simply the toilet. Bathroom, to me, implies that it has a bath and a shower. So a public bathroom, well, I don't want to have a shower or a bath in a public bath. You will often see toilets or public restrooms in the UK marked with WC. This is short for water closet, but no one ever says water closet. We always say the loo or the toilets. Where are the toilets? Where's the toilet? Some of my friends from across the pond have said that they find saying the word toilet directly quite vulgar, and I do understand that, but it's just so ingrained into our everyday speech. Right, let's take a look at this next one. What do they say?
We would call this either a fire hall or a fire station. Fire hall is the place where you would find firefighters and fire trucks, and if there's a fire, the alarm goes off and they jump in their trucks and they go to put out the fire. So we would call it a fire hall or a fire station.
Fire station, but also firehouse.
Interesting. For us, this is just a fire station. We never ever say fire hall or, what was the other one? Firehouse. No, we never say that. Fire station. Actually, I've just thought there's a bar in London called the Chiltern Firehouse, which is meant to be very nice. Actually, it is very nice. I've been there. And yeah, I never even thought twice about that. Maybe we do say firehouse every now and again. All right, on to the next one. What do they say for this?
In Canada, we often refer to electricity as hydro. Sometimes there's a storm and the hydro goes out. The poles along the road are called hydro poles. So I think this is because a lot of our electricity comes from hydroelectric power plants. But in Canada, you call electricity hydro.
We call that electricity.
Interesting. Because if you said the hydro wasn't working, I would presume that was your water supply. In British English, we call this electricity, the electric. We also say the power, so we have a power cut or the power's gone out, or energy. You know, my energy bill's gone up so much. This is because we use lots of different sources. There's gas in many houses. Oil is what we use here. It depends if you're on the mains supply or not. Okay, what do they call this?
So we would call this either brown bread or whole wheat bread. It's more common for me as an older Canadian to call it brown bread. I think for my kids, they would call this whole wheat bread. But definitely when I was growing up, we had white bread and we had brown bread.
I would call that whole wheat bread.
I'm definitely seeing more similarities between Canadian English and British English than American English and British English. We also call this brown bread. Multigrain and whole wheat is also creeping in. But in general, we have brown bread, white bread. Okay, What do they say for this one?
Sometimes when you're at a restaurant, you get a little bit of food on your mouth and you use a serviette to wipe it off. So this is what we in Canada would call a serviette.
That's a paper napkin.
Ah, interesting. In British English, we use both. Serviette and napkin. For me, a serviette seems like a kind of cheaper white one that's disposable, and a napkin is either decorated or made of material. Right, let's see what they say for this one.
We call a case of beer with 24 bottles in it a 2-4 in Canada. Do you get it? There's 24 bottles of beer in it, 2-4. So we call a case of beer with 24 bottles of beer in it a 2-4.
We would call that a case of beer.
In British English, we would call this a 24-pack. If someone asked me for a 2-4, I don't think I'd know what they're talking about, but I like that. That's very efficient. Today, I am bringing you part 2 of my collaboration with Bob the Canadian and Rachel from Rachel's English. We are doing a comparison of British English, American English, and Canadian English. Last time we looked at the difference in vocabulary, and today we're going to be looking at pronunciation. Let me quickly introduce my 2 wonderful guests. First up, we have Rachel from Rachel's English.
My name is Rachel, and I run the YouTube channel Rachel's English, where we cover all things spoken English with an emphasis on American English, slang, the American accent, listening comprehension, conversation skills, and so on.
And representing Canada, we have Bob from Learn English with Bob the Canadian.
Well, hello, Lucy and all of Lucy's viewers. I'm Bob the Canadian from the YouTube channel Learn English with Bob the Canadian, and I'm here today to read a few sentences for you with my Canadian accent.
If you've never met me before, my name's Lucy. I run this channel, English with Lucy, and I come from Cambridgeshire in England, and I speak with a modern RP accent, sometimes with a hint of estuary. I wonder if you can spot that ever. Okay, so how is it going to work today? Well, I have got 6 groups of 3 sentences. We're going to read them one after the other so you can immediately compare the differences in how we pronounce things. Let's get started. So first up, we're going to have a look at my O and OR sounds. These can be very different in American English and Canadian English. Have a listen. I caught the cot.
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 Number 2. The tot was taught.
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 And number 3. I bought a bot.
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 I bought a bot. When I read these sentences, I say both words the same way. I caught the cot. The tot was taught. I bought a bot.
So that's really interesting. Both of them pronounce it in a really similar way. I caught the cot. But for me, it's very, very different. Caught, cot. Similar mouth shape. One is much longer than the other. Caught, cot. Caught, cot. Taught, tot. Bought, bot. Listen to these next 3. This for me is the O sound before an sound. Number 1, borrow.
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 Number 2, sorry.
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 Number 3, tomorrow.
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 So all 3 of us sound so different here. I love Bob's or. It's like a really long one, sorry. For me, it's sorry, sorry. And Rachel's is more of a sorry, 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 sorry. It's so fun. This is why I love pronunciation. It is so much fun.
In particular, the word sorry I pronounce with a very strong Canadian accent. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. sorry. Yeah, that's really distinctive because before I started studying pronunciation, I really struggled to tell the difference between the American accents and the Canadian accents. I wouldn't have been able to identify people. The or, sorry sound for me makes that quite easy to differentiate. I wonder if the whole of Canada says it in that way or if it's a particular region or generation. In these next three, we're going to have a look or a listen to the flap T. Consider how I say the T sound in the middle of words compared to how Rachel and Bob say it. Number 1, a little bit of butter.
A little bit of butter.
These are going to be a bit challenging even for me. A little bit of butter.
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 Number 2, it's wetter in Toronto.
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 So did you notice that Rachel dropped the second T in Toronto? Toronto. That's because in American English, they sometimes drop the T when it comes after an N. Toronto. Toronto. My American accent is just horrendous. Another good example of this is internet for me. For Americans, internet. Internet. And number 3, I know a lot about it.
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 I know a lot about it. So you'll notice when I say Toronto, I actually say Toronto. So here we go again. A little bit of butter. It's wetter in Toronto. I know a lot about it.
Okay, I feel like the odd one out here because I do pronounce my T's in the middle of words. Now, in British English, we do use a glottal stop quite frequently. If I was speaking really quickly with my friends, I might drop the T in little and say lil, lil. You might also hear a glottal stop like little, a little bit, a little bit. It's a very soft glottal stop. We don't tend to use the flap T as much, which is when you almost, and it's not exactly a D, but it sounds very similar to a D, a little bit of butter. It doesn't sound right in my accent, but it sounds perfectly fine in theirs. It's curious that both of them say Toronto. Bob almost completely skips a syllable there. Toronto, Toronto. For me, it's Toronto. Toronto.
Love the flap T. It's so fun.
I think the flap T is fun. And you know what? I am actually hearing the flap T creeping into British English now. And it seems to be a sort of posh thing. I'm hearing sort of middle and upper class Londoners, it seems, based in Chelsea. If you listen to Made in Chelsea, that's a TV show about young rich people in Chelsea. They'll say, yeah, I think it's butter, it's butter. But that was never really a thing in the past to use that flap T. Maybe it's because they're so well travelled that they go over to the States and Canada and they've picked up that flap T. This next bundle will hopefully show a bit of the British influence on Canadian English. Have a listen. Again and against.
Again, against. Again and against.
Again and against.
Again and against.
Again, against. Again and against.
Again and against. Like if the Toronto Maple Leafs play a game against the Montreal Canadiens.
So it's interesting that they both say again and against, whereas for me it is again and against. You will also hear Brits saying again and against. I think that's something that we've picked up from consuming so much American media. Yeah, I think you'd find me using both actually, with no real identifiable rhyme or reason. Avenue.
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 So for me it's avenue. New. That's a big difference between British English and American English. They say new, we say new. I was curious to hear what Bob had to say because I have heard Canadians say new as well. And the last one, adult.
Adult.
And adult.
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 and adult. So that's how I would say those: again and against, avenue and adult.
Ah, so the stress on adult and adult is different for us. For me, adult. Go and tell an adult. And for them, it's go and tell an adult. Adult, adult. Okay, next we're going to have a look at how we all say, what I would say is the ow sound, because there's a common stereotype that the Canadians pronounce it as a boot. And Bob is going to show us if that's true or not. First up, out and about.
Out and about.
So you'll hear my Canadian accent fairly strongly again in the following. If I say out and about.
Out and about.
Out and about.
Out and about.
Next, how's the house?
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 And finally, the sound is too loud.
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 The sound is too loud. Some people think that Canadians say the word about like a boat, but we don't. Here's a sentence so you can hear the difference. The man was out and about in his boat. It's a classic Canadian phrase if you want to hear a Canadian accent. The man was out and about in his boat.
The man was out and about in his boat. I can definitely hear the difference between Rachel's accent and Bob's accent there. His is definitely more of a ooh, and hers is wider. Mine seems to be wider still. Out and about. Our final group of words are words beginning with pro. There are definitely some differences here. First up, process.
Process.
Process or process.
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 So words like process or process, they make me laugh a little bit because I don't even know why I use two pronunciations. I could say a sentence like this: the process for making bread is a very long process. And I pronounced the word two different ways. I blame this mostly on the fact that Canadian English is a blend of American and British English. So the process was a long process. Yeah, weird, eh? I don't even know why I choose one pronunciation over the other.
That's so interesting that he uses both. I guess it's like again and again for us. We use both and we don't really know why. The next two are noun-verb pairs. So first I'll say the noun, then I'll say the verb. Project, project. You will hear some people saying project instead of project.
Project. Project.
You can work on a project. You can also work on a project.
Project, project.
Project. Project.
So with project, I'm trying to figure out which pronunciation is most common. Like you can work on a project, you can also work on a project. I think the first one is more common in Canadian English. I think project is more common. But we also have the verb form, right? To project. So as a student, you can work on a project and then you can project your project to the class using a projector. Yeah, it gets a little confusing when you're Canadian. I think we just go with the flow. We just pick whatever pronunciation makes the most sense at the time.
Oh yes, so our pronunciation is very different there. For me, it's project, project. And for Rachel, it's more of a R sound, project. And the last one, progress, to progress.
Progress. Progress.
Progress and progress.
Progress, to progress.
Progress. Progress.
Progress and progress.
Same for Bob there as well. Progress, progress, project. For me, project, progress. Progress sometimes as well. Yeah, I think this has just made it clear that we're not quite sure what we're doing.
They're doing some road work actually on my road this week, and I don't think they're making a lot of progress. When I drive by, I just don't think they're making a lot of progress because they're usually just standing around. So you can see once again, as a Canadian, I say progress and I say progress. I don't even know why I choose the pronunciations I do. The words just come out, either using one pronunciation, progress, or the other, progress. And then of course we have the verb as well, right? To progress, which has another pronunciation entirely, to progress.
Thank you so much to Rachel and Bob for their invaluable contribution to this video. I've left all of their information down below in the description box so you can go and check out their channels and their websites and everything.